We'll call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, approval of the agenda.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose same sign. Motion carries. First up is informational item, MOU for the Process School District and the PEA.
So basically, in our last meeting, you gave us permission to enter into this, so be it was the case, Deanna and I met with the PEA. And we agreed that it would be a 1-year MOU to discuss moving forward and with a little more intentionality and a little more focus and more people at the table to do what's best for our community and our families moving forward.
Thank you. Any questions for Kim or Deanna?
Yeah, I noticed this says to educate and study. So the study piece, what is
Would
that?
like to look for potential solutions for childcare and study ways that we can partner with different groups, boys and girls clubs, daycares, different things. So the study of what might be best.
Also, yeah,
solutions.
like there's several districts that have this model, what maybe kind of solutions that they have. A lot of them had it for a long time, so maybe there won't be people there that remember, but what are some of the things that they're able to provide
Or help us with.
or help support families with?
Not studying alternatives to
No,
Late
Not
Start.
not at this time, because
No.
the way our contract is written, it's a 1-year MOU.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Mhm.
Well, unfortunately, that brings up a question I might have. Is, would this be something, would part of the study be to get rid of the early or late release?
As we study and move forward and bring ideas and have meetings, yes, but no, this particular MOU is for this for
Right.
1 year. But if something was brought up, then we would have to go, just like what we did before, sit down with the union
Right.
and the others.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Moving on. Do we have anybody signed in, Selena? Like anybody online? Okay, we'll move on from that. And at this point, I will recess the regular board meeting and open a budget hearing. Is there anybody here or online wishing to speak about the budget? Okay, now I will close the budget hearing and reconvene the regular board meeting. Moving on to student rep reports. Cammy, you're up first. All right, Alexander?
I don't have anything, but Yoshimi wanted to ask potentially if the schedules for upper class students could get released or something. Like early for some reason.
That's a high school decision necessarily. However, I would say at this point with one new counselor, the schedules, I'm happy to say, are done. I don't mean that like done to release, but with the one new counselor and them working on, I don't know that they will be released early. I think that I'm happy to say that I'm going to excitedly say that they're going to be released timely and with more accuracy than what we've seen in the past, but I don't know if the word is early.
Yeah.
Would that be
Yeah.
correct how you would word that?
I
And
would
Brian's
say.
not here, and so,
It's really hard because the counselors do come in, and even though the schedules might be done, they have notes, records, meetings they've had with parents and students, and they have to make some adjustments to schedules, and there's always changes students have, or things might come through. I know when I was a middle school principal, they're like, I really want to do band, and then just before school started, I changed my mind, I don't want to do band anymore. So some of those things that end up changing, but they'll be out, I think, next week.
yeah.
sometime.
And then the other piece on that also, it seems kind of counterproductive or counter thought process. The freshman and sophomore schedules are often, I don't want to say easier, but it's when you get to the juniors and seniors where you add in Tri-Tech and Running Start and college and the high school, and maybe you're a CBC student and you thought you were gonna take Math 131 and now Math 31's been closed. And so now we have to change your schedule here to change what the schedule was that you were planning at CBC. So in the strangest way, kind of the juniors and the seniors are kind of finished last because of those changes.
Make sure to. Information to her.
Thank you. Any questions for Cammy or Alexander? Thank you. Moving on to our second discussion item would be track signage.
I'd really like you to open it and give us some feedback. This is what we've talked about. This is what the safety committee talked about, so on and so forth. I just would like to make sure we are in agreement that this is what we're hoping for. Is there any language in there? I'm ready to pull the yes, put it to print, but I would like your thoughts on it. The signage has been approved by you and the committee, but the verbiage I would just like to run past you.
When I looked online, I saw it, but then when I printed out my packet.
Yeah, it didn't come through on.
How
the
big will
Oh.
the sign
packet.
be?
There are different sizes for different locations.
Okay.
So like on the big entrance to the track where the turnstile is a little bigger, smaller at different spots.
Well, just because some of our signs are like this big and that was at least.
Yeah, no, I think,
Medium to.
well, yeah,
larger size.
medium to large, and I see Selena scrolling. It looks like maybe she's looking for the size dimensions. But we did talk about, there's 3 different sizes, what I would call a small, a medium, and then a large one for the main entrances.
Can you help me understand why strollers can't be on the track?
If I could define it better, it has to do with the wheels, and the wheels, when you pivot and turn on the track surface, have the potential to tear. I think about the jogger that we see on the road that has a rubber tire with air. The likelihood of that doing anything is up. But remember the old umbrella stroller with the hard wheels? That would not be good. So it's very difficult to say this kind of stroller, this kind of not, this kind of, right? So that was that is the reason behind the no strollers. Rolling wheels. And so rolling wheels are very difficult. Like our Gator does okay because they're softer and the surface area contact is bigger, and the smaller, the harder the turn, the more chance for.
So it could damage the track surface.
So out of curiosity, how would you I mean, obviously this is, what do you call that? Good Samaritan, I guess.
Yes, it's a good Samaritan.
Okay.
I mean, we're not gonna walk up to you and go, you've got a jogger out here, get off, right? But it's like, if we see a continual one that might be hard, it would be a conversation. Andy, myself, Deanna,
Well,
building
ultimately,
principal.
if they only open the rotating gate, you wouldn't be able to get in there anyway. Unless you threw it over.
I mean,
the fence.
I mean, a lot of this goes back to, I mean, we've all seen it. I mean, people throw stuff over the fence, whatever. I mean, I think like Jason said, you're hopefully just kind of having faith in humanity with,
People,
And I
some
think
of
it's
this
a
stuff, yeah.
guideline. I don't want somebody to think it's like, you're not gonna write you a ticket or something, but we're trying to
yeah,
take care of our dollars and our investment.
Mhm.
And it would be like, I don't have daycare, I have I have my child, I mean, like, I think there's solutions and ideas, right, that we could work with. We're just trying to get a general of them and understanding that wheels on the track are really bad. That's why we like lay plywood across the track, even when we're moving something out to, right? Even the mower, whatever, we lay plywood out or our new mats so that there's not direct contact between the rubber and the track.
I think it looks good. I hope we can move forward with that. My personal opinion.
Yeah.
Any other questions, thoughts? Cammy, Alexander?
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our action items. First up is resolution 0824, adoption of the 24-25 budget. I believe Delise is in charge of that.
Yeah, I'm in charge. Wait, can you please pull up that presentation? And we're not gonna go through every slide, so I'll just tell you what slide to.
Excuse me, I think I'm sharing my the wrong screen. Give me a second. Okay.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so we're not gonna go through all 30 slides. I'm not gonna waste everyone's time. We have done some incredible work over the summer as a board, as an admin office to create this budget with transparency and confidence in really what we're going into 24-25 with. So can you go to the next slide, please? So even though you're voting on a resolution for general fund, I will be presenting all funds so we can see what our activity is this year and where we'll end up. So this is just a summary, and this is all coming off the F-195, which is also available to the public, included in the board packet. And the F-195 is the official OSPI document that we turn into ESD and OSPI. So for general fund, and keep in mind, general fund is still an estimate on our beginning fund balance. We really won't know truly what our beginning fund balance is until year end in October. And that is due to grant accruals, expense accruals, but I'm pretty confident that we'll be at least at this number. So I've estimated that our beginning fund balance for general will be 1.2 million. Our expenditures do exceed our revenues, 468,000. So we do have a deficit. And then the ending fund balance with that deficit is a 731,000. Again, these are estimates.
Was that our option 4?
This is option 4, yep.
Okay.
So this is with the full curriculum adoption and then a 4th of tech adoption. And again, we don't have to spend all of this, right? We're creating budget capacity so that if we can find the revenue and the resources, that we'll be able to move forward on these big projects.
Can you push pause for just a moment?
Sure. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out the presentation I got has the beginning fund balance around 3.5.
Yeah, so that was incorrect and it was updated and put on the board packet with the correct fund balance information on that. That was an input error that the ESD caught and helped me fix. So it does not change the expenditures or revenues or anything like that, but it does change the beginning and ending fund balance projected.
So if I go to the F-195,
Yes, and that one's also updated on the board packet.
okay.
The links are old then, right? Like when I'm clicking through these agenda links.
No, they should
No,
be,
they're,
they should be
I'm
live.
saying that's accurate.
yeah, hers is accurate.
I wonder if it needs to be refreshed, like.
I don't know.
Maybe it needs to be refreshed.
I
I can
don't-
also.
What's
email
yours
them.
say for?
I just,
Change
Wait,
it.
well,
it went
I
to-
click on.
Maybe you need to get. So yours, the website is working for you. The agenda on the website is working. For you.
it's the, I linked to the one in the agenda. The agenda one worked for me.
Presentation and F-195.
The F-195 that's on my agenda
Haven't opened that one yet.
has a 3.5 beginning fund balance.
Well, let me email this to you so you can open the correct one.
Does yours still say?
Mhm.
So you were in the agenda from today?
Yeah,
It's just right here. Is this from today or the one she emailed you on Friday?
No, it was opened.
Hmm. Maybe, okay. We'll go to our district. I just want to see if it's all messed up. Board of Directors. Then you have to go all the way to the bottom after agendas.
Yeah, I'll go up. Oh, so sorry.
Fast card. Yes.
No, that's Susan.
Thinking. Yeah.
Okay, I emailed them both to
Okay,
you
but
guys.
if you go to down
Yeah,
into.
then I-
anybody can- yes, ma'am.
Here, if we re-download the PDF, the board packet, then the links go to the correct spot. Oh, yeah, I can fix that for you right here real quick.
I also emailed them to you guys too. That's easier.
In different
Yeah, it
order,
doesn't
so
matter. What does that show?
Nope. Still 3.5 there.
Mine opens the one, does yours open?
I was able to refresh.
Refresh.
It may have just updated since I pulled these up at about 4:45.
So why don't you explain while he's doing this to the people who are listening and to the board about the error, and while the expenditures and revenues didn't change, the fund balance number was off.
So the fund balance number was off because I put a positive number in my assigned minimum fund balance instead of a negative.
Thank you.
So
Mind if I-
the expenditures nothing changes except for what our projected ending fund balance is. And it was my mistake. I did not catch it.
So today you were working with Travis.
I was working with Travis for a couple of hours, not just on this, but some on other things. They thoroughly go through our budgets and include them. I sent it over for the last edit because I needed to fix a transfer code. And he did notice the fund balance and did walk me through the steps on how to fix it. And it was just a simple entry that it was my mistake.
Thanks,
So why don't
Blake.
you talk about the budget this year and the ending fund balance was projected, excuse me? The
Um,
23-24 budget with what ending fund balance was projected.
Oh, like where we're at.
No,
budget
what was
wise?
on the budget projected ending fund?
3.1.
Mhm.
Our projected ending fund balance is 3.1, and it's also, it's not where we're at all.
And it hasn't
Um,
been at any of your reports.
Huh?
And it has not been with any of your reports.
What has not been?
We knew we weren't going to be at 3.1.
Oh, yeah, no, I knew from the very beginning we wouldn't be at 3.1 ending fund balance. Again, I think that was an incredibly overestimate. And again, I'm very conservative. I budget very conservatively. If you talk to Craig, he wanted me to do the beginning fund balance as more, but I would rather budget conservatively than overshoot and be incorrect. And so I discussed this number with Travis and he agreed with me, that this is more than likely where we will be at. I think, we'll see obviously at the end of August, where our revenues are at. And then we'll have a better handle on grants. But this is where we're at. We're not overspending budget at all. I will say that we did projections today and we're going to come in under budget even better than I thought we were. I have put a stop on spending and Kim knows that. I've been trying really hard. But unfortunately, I can't control what was predicted and what was reported and it was not correct, fortunately. However, I do know and have full confidence in working with ESD and OSPI that this budget is correct. Our estimates are very conservative. But again, I would rather be conservative than not and overshoot and
So when you did your presentation in June, what were you predicting our ending fund balance would be?
we didn't talk about ending fund balance, but we did talk about where we were going to be at in budget and we thought we were going to be right on the cusp. And right now, if we continue where we're at for the month of August, we'll have a pretty good cushiony carryover to help with this fund balance. But again, I'm a pessimist. I'm not gonna sugarcoat something that's not, I don't agree with. Sugary. Yeah, that's not sugary. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I like that one. So I mean, again, we do have to pay attention to the ending fund balance. On our August 28th board meeting, I'll be presenting a 4-year projection of where we'll be at for the next 4 school years. And so we'll have a better idea of the work that needs to be done to raise that fund balance back up. But in a reality, this is where we're at.
So how does this budget then hold true to the policy? What's the policy that we?
4%.
4 to 5%. So, it's under. I mean, the ending fund balance is, I mean, we're approving a $47 million budget and it's not 5%. Our 5% number is 2.3 million. That's 5% of our budget. That's what we need to be at. I would feel more comfortable being at. But again, you know, the amount that we're approving, we don't need to spend. We absolutely don't need to spend what we're approving. We've built in such a large capacity for these big projects that we have. But, you know, you have full control over what we spend and what we don't. But I mean, this is.
So I have a question. So this summary does not include any fund balance that we would have for this year?
No, what do you mean?
You said something about
Carryover.
Carryover. So this right now is if we spend our whole budget for this year. This beginning fund balance is if we spend the
And you've
full 44
included whatever
million.
you think the carryover would be, but you're anticipating the carryover being higher.
I hope it's higher.
Okay.
I hope, so this is a conservative amount. Talking to Craig today, he felt more comfortable with 1.5, but I did not. And at the end of the day, it's my decision. And my professional opinion is to budget conservatively in this way. I don't want to give false hope and where we're going to be at the end of August. I mean, it is what it is. We've spent what we've spent. I do know, however, that of the $44,272,000 that we have budgeted for, we will come under that in where we're at right now.
So when we had the big discussion in June about curriculum and technology and those pieces, we talked quite at length about building the capacity to spend. We talked about grants, we talked about different things. Not that it's anywhere near $400,000 or $500,000, right? Bear with me. But we just got a $56,000 tech grant and we've applied for an energy grant, and right, we're doing these pieces, right? And I think Delise and my philosophy or beliefs are, if something is brought to the table and we spend all 47,425,000, this is the reality. But as a team, you with me as your partner, that's not our goal. Our goal is to be able to increase that revenue through grants and through other pieces, because you don't have a cap on your revenue. But we do have a cap on what we can spend without doing a budget adjustment. And we talked long and hard about that in June. So we built this capacity. We as a team have to know we cannot spend 47 million if our revenue is 46.9. Or we can't spend 47.4 if our revenue is 46.9. We also budgeted very conservative on enrollment. Our kindergarten is bursting at the seams. We almost are like have no room.
That's the other way to create revenues.
Yeah, and we have a additional TK classroom, right? All of these pieces. Now, I'm a little more of the half full and she's a half empty, and we make a good team that way, right? I mean, we really do. We make a good team. She says, Kim, I can't project that. I can't do that. I have to know, I have to tell him the very worst thing that could happen. And I'm like, oh, can't we tell him what could happen the positive way? And she's like, no, that's not my job. So today your resolution, if so be it that you choose, is to say that the most we will spend in the Prosser School District is $47,425,000. That's what the resolution says. That doesn't mean we have to spend it, right? Delise, this is what you were talking to me about today when we talked about this.
Correct.
So you want to talk about we don't, just because we investigate or we do something, doesn't mean we spend the money.
Right, exactly. And, you know, we have these big dreams and these big plans that we want to implement and, as much as it's needed. And again, I've said, I don't know how to teach kids. I know how to do numbers. But the fact of the matter is we can't have a fund balance of $731,000. We need to, as a team, you know, as Kim says, thought partners figure out a way to increase our revenues. And yes, I budgeted very conservatively on enrollment, and on TK, and on a couple other grants where we just don't have that solid amount yet, and we won't until August, the end of August. But we don't have to spend what we're expending. Absolutely not. In my professional opinion, I would say that we do not spend what we're expending unless we find some kind of other revenue. We need to see where our numbers are in November. That's enrollment in November is going to be where we find out where we're truly at. And even this year, we're 56 kids over already than we budgeted for last year. You know, again, like Kim said, we have an 18 class TK that I did not budget revenue for. It's, you know, again, I'm a little bit of a pessimist, but I think when you're walking into a situation like this, you have to in order to do your job well. I don't, like I said, I'm not going to sugarcoat something that's not sugary. This is what it is. Salaries are what they are. We can't do anything about salaries. You know, MSOCs are what they are. And it's, you know, it's not my call on what we spend and what we don't. But it is my job to present the numbers how they are, and this is where we're at.
So 2.3 million is our board policy, have a fund balance of. Where do we come up with 1.6 million in additional revenue? It's a pretty big gap. I mean, it seems like, and it makes me feel uneasy. I don't know about anyone else.
Are we in violation of any, obviously would be, right? No.
I mean, our
If-
policy says that we have to come up with a financial plan. If our fund balance gets to that low, right? So this is a projection of where we're going to end up in August of 2025. This does not reflect where we're going to be in September or October or November. But when I do my projection for the full year, and my cash flow worksheet, we'll know what months we're going to dip. I know what months and what percentages we get apportionment. Some of our grants, we get the same amount of money every single month. We know that for our title grants, we budget our revenue equals to expenditures. So again, we're approving this cost, but that does not necessarily mean that's where we're going to end up. And it's that our fund balance now is not that low. And it's going to fluctuate throughout the year. And also depending if we move forward with curriculum, if we move forward with tech, you know, we budgeted a lot of money for those two things. You know, we have the 1% going to tech and curriculum. You know, while we're approving those expenditures, we could take those and cushion the fund balance rather than, you know, buying all of these things. There's different things that we can do and we can decide as a team. I don't necessarily think that we're going to come up with an answer tonight. I think it's impossible. It's impossible to know where our enrollment's going to be at in November. I mean, we're optimistic with what we have already and what we know is coming down the pipeline. But I mean, enrollment, we need to get our enrollment up. We need to be getting more grants and finding more revenue. And we're working with, you know, a company right now that's doing grant writing. In a perfect world, I would hire a grant writer and have them do nothing but that. But we're not. I mean, we're short staffed. We don't, you know, we can only do so much with what we have. But I think as uncomfortable as it makes me having a projected ending fund balance like that, I think we have to approve the amount that we're requesting, because we really don't have any wiggle room around that. We really don't. We don't have any exorbitant costs or projects or anything like that. We've been very conservative on what we're budgeting, but, you know, the cash is the cash.
So an example, what you were talking about enrollment. So the TKA class is 18. And we budgeted, I don't want to say for sure, 51 less than what we ended with in May. So that 51, is that right? I don't want to speak out of turn. 51 less than what we had in May. That 51 is 510,000. The 18 makes 690,000. Do you see where I'm coming from? And so remember, I'm the half full and she's the half empty. So she's saying we're not going to get any students. And I'm saying, I know how many choice in transfers we've gotten for the first time in a long time, right? And we don't have to spend, we just have to be saying, we can't do this right now. We have to wait. We have to do something, right? On anything that's big.
So just to start, though, our beginning fund balance is over $1 million shy of.
I don't know.
Yes, it is. And again,
Where we should be.
I didn't project that. I don't know how the previous business manager projected that. But it's not accurate. It's not accurate like a lot of things. So I mean, I don't really have, I can't attest to that.
So last year it showed that we were compliant, but really wasn't.
Mhm. I wasn't here. I can't,
Well,
I don't really know.
is that what happened? So now we're just seeing real numbers.
Yes, and I, you know, I talked to Travis today. I even have it in an email. He said the budget looks great, that he agrees with everything. And I mean, it is what it is, guys. I wish I could say something different.
Why don't you keep
When
going?
our financial statements were submitted last year, right, I mean, clearly they were all wrong. No one like higher up than us validates them. Like the state, like, wait a second, you don't have all this money.
Well, at the end of the year, when I filed the F-196, they validate that, but no, unless you're on binding conditions, there's no, the OSPI and ESD is not checking your monthly financials every month. ESD and the county do monitor your cash flows, like Travis checks every single month where we're at. And if there is a concern, he would reach out to a district and let them know. That's, you know, his job. But, you know, other than that, you know, no. So, I mean, no. Until year end, when I had to go and spend a month cleaning up and do accurate reporting and get that submitted. And that was accurate and it was verified and, but unfortunately not. You know, we've done a lot of cleanup and we've worked really hard to make sure that we don't overspend a budget that wasn't done correctly. But again, I think, you know, Kim and I can't control what was done before we got here. All we can do is try and fix it moving forward and do the best that we can do in that way.
And to those who are listening and to the board who was with me before, remember, I was super excited. The one board meeting we're ahead, we're doing whatever, and then it was 150 or 1.5 million, the opposite swing in one meeting, right? I mean, so where I'm coming from is, and that was, I was 20 days in or something like that, 25 days into my career. So that's a piece to this. Remember, we brought Craig in and then we did the change and then we hired and we knew it was messy and then you guys came on, right? So remember half full is I'm hoping we'll come to you and tell you that the ending fund balance for the year is 1.37 or some crazy number, right? Better than the 1.2. And that makes the ending fund balance, whatever that's better. And then I'm hoping that when we do our September count, we come to a September 12th board meeting and I say, Now, this is not the November count. It goes like this for a little bit, but we're up 71. And I can say, well, there's another 710,000, right? So that's what I'm hoping. Delise is saying, I'm reporting the correct numbers and you shouldn't buy this. You shouldn't spend this. You shouldn't do that. And together, that's our job.
But I also just want to point out, last year we had a $1.5 million deficit that ate into our fund balance. I mean, that's.
That's what I was
Mhm.
wondering.
And that's what happens is, you know, the deficit that you have, it eats into your fund balance. And unfortunately, we had a $1.5 million deficit, and we have spent all of it.
So if, just say we're using these numbers moving forward, it sounds like with enrollment being up, this is all gonna be potentials, but, so that's $500,000 to $600,000. And then we look back at proposing that we wanna buy curriculum, the tech side of things with Chromebooks, I guess to make people feel better, if we take out, cause I have no recollection what that curriculum number was, the tech number was, if we pull those back out, if I'm making sense.
Curriculum was about 350. We budgeted for, I think, 350, and then I think it was.
Are you talking about just adoption?
Yeah, just the 350, and then tech, I wanna say it was like 800 divided by 4, so it was like, I think it was like a 190 something, if I remember correctly. I can pull it up and look at the scenario, but it'll be around $500,000.
So we could leave it in the budget and pass it, and then when it comes to the board for review, and we can always not spend it at that time.
Correct.
too.
And obviously we can't do anything about salaries. We can look back on MSOCs, what we're budgeting for things like athletics, things that we can't control. We can't control utilities, those kind of things. But I think that there are things that we can look back at and choose to not do, or do if that's what you choose. But I think that would be the best option to go.
It would be really rough if we did remove those from the budget and then we turn around and we get 50 new students, and then we can get some of those things that we need, and then we're not, maybe not able to, so we took it out of the budget. But
Deanna, what's your timing looking like for curriculum adoption?
so we already, my science group is supposed to start again in September, and with a goal of selecting some curriculums to pilot. So the plan would be to have a decision in the spring to adopt, so that the materials would be here and they could have training and be ready to go for school for 25, 26.
So we'll have a lot more information about where the
Oh,
budget
yeah.
really is by the time we have to
Yes.
decide go or no go.
Work in our process. We won't stop unless you guys say, nope, we're not doing it. Then I will let them, then there's not really a point in us moving forward right now with no hope of them getting any new.
I mean, I just find curriculum so important that if you have to scrounge every penny from anywhere else to pull more revenue in, that's what we have to do.
She's on my team, I know. It really is. Our curriculum is so outdated in science and history. It's so outdated. Or non-existent, honestly, in some cases. But
Yeah, well,
teachers
we're
are doing
here,
the best with what they have, but
we're here to educate kids. You can't do that with poor curriculum. You just can't.
Oh, sorry.
You just can't. I was done.
No, we can't have Gary Loft in our Washington State history book anymore. If we sell real estate, that goes into capital
Capital.
fund.
And if we borrow from capital funds, we have to pay it back with interest. So, do you see what I'm saying? So
Oh, yeah.
you have to.
With
But
this-
grants will help us,
Mhm.
right?
sure gonna try.
What's the worst case scenario with this budget?
The worst case scenario is this.
Okay.
Yep, this is the absolute worst case scenario. that we end up with a fund balance that is below our policy. This won't affect anything with OSPI, we're not violating any laws or anything like that. But we would just be,
It's close.
for lack of better words, in a really crappy financial position at that.
So if it hasn't been budgeted,
Now, what else you got out there? Worst case.
we was out of the 7:30, so then
get
it
to that
doesn't get
too.
spent. We don't have to pass anything else.
Yeah, we don't have to do an extension and, you know, an extension, you know, it's cheap, but it's so timely. I would basically be going and doing budget over again in the OSPI system. And having to redo that. So that's not something that we want to do. It's a pain. So, you know, that's from my training from OSPI, from the ESD, from WASBO. You want to plan for the worst case scenario and budget for the worst case scenario. So what we don't want to end up is in, you know, July, you know, we find a pot of money and then she can't order her curriculum because we don't have enough time to do a budget extension and get it ordered in time. And so again, as much as uncomfortable as this makes me, and Kim knows that it does, and I think that we need to move forward on it. I think we have to. And again, we have time to figure out if, you know, we're going to move forward on curriculum or tech. It's not like we have to start ordering curriculum right now. Like Deanna said, we can wait until spring. And by springtime, we'll know, I mean, by November, we'll know where our enrollment is at. And that's a big chunk of our money.
Well, and the reality of it is that it takes time to absorb a $1.5 million miscommunication or whatever. That, to me, that is gonna take some time.
Which is why I would like to build the fund balance back up. You know, we have a policy of 5%, but that's minimal, right? Like a healthy fund balance is 8% of your expenditures, and that would be my goal, to be able to get to that eventually. I also just want to point out that, you know, we are struggling, but so is every district across the state. I mean, it's the fact that we're only at a $500,000 deficit this year is insane.
Positive.
Positively insane, yes.
So I have a couple comments. One, this very an easy feeling looking at this now compared to what I looked at a few days ago. And I do appreciate all the work and the honesty of putting this together, but according to our fund balance policy, you know, we've got to declare a budget emergency. So that means, you know, part of this is coming up with a plan to get us back to at a minimum
4 to 5, right?
4%.
So I budgeted 5. So I over budgeted that also. So 2.371 is 5%, not 4.
Right. But, and I'm gonna be a glass half empty person with you. If this is how we end up next year, you know, we're in a world of hurt. So I like being optimistic as much as the next person. But what I see today, I just don't know if I can accept our expenditures as they're there today. I'd rather come back with a budget amendment personally that would allow us to spend more money once that came in. But I would think having $500,000 in the negative based on, you know, and this is a budget that we've got to approve. This is the numbers that we've got to work with at the time. This, the way I see it, I would think we need to be at least at 0 in the excess. You know, we should be expending, our revenues and expenses should match. And maybe I'm wrong, but, and I'm not trying to cut out a bunch of stuff, but,
No, I get that.
but this is very concerning, you know, considering where we were last year and where we've been in the past. I mean, if you have another, you know, if the students don't show up or something happens, I mean, I don't want to be in a situation of other districts in, our community, so.
Jason, can I make
Yes,
a
you
comment here? Okay, so I'm a little freaked out by this too, but if it's 4%, okay, that's 1.89 million we need to be at. So it's a little bit better, right? We're about a million short, a little more than a million short at the end. Let's just say our beginning fund balance is 1.5 and not 1.2. Okay, so that's 300,000 closer. Let's say we get that enrollment, we're hoping that's 700,000, right? So we've closed the gap by a million. And we're right at the 4% at that point, almost. If those things don't materialize, that negative 468,000 is curriculum and technology, which we can always just decide to not do in the spring. So we're gonna have a lot of lead time to figure out, did we get the enrollment? Did we have that carryover? I feel a little bit better about the 1.8 million number, the 2.3. I mean, it's like, gosh, we're never gonna get there, but I do feel a little bit hopeful that we might be able to come close to that 4% if we see how things go through November.
And I wouldn't disagree with you if I wasn't a little gun shy after last year. And that's really where I'm coming from, right? Is, going into what we thought was right to what we know is right. Put us all behind the 8 ball. And we're trying to dig out of that hole. Like I said, I'm not wanting to cut things, and I truly hope that, whether it's grants or students coming in, that we can increase our revenues. All I'm saying is I would rather approve a budget that is 0 and come back with a budget amendment. Because after they do all the good work, at least I would personally feel more comfortable having 1.2 and change, I guess, than 730,000. But I understand what you're saying. I'm a little gun shy, looking at this. I'm being an optimist, I'm being a pessimist, not an optimist. So that's just where I'm coming from.
So procedurally, can we change any part of this as it's been published? We had a hearing tonight, or do we have to come back?
So
And publish for
what
next
you're
year.
approving is the general fund expenditures. So if you decide that you are not going to adopt this tonight and want me to make the changes, we would adopt it on the 28th.
We'd have to go back, public hearing and do all that.
And do we have time built in for do that? Do we have to publish again for 2 weeks?
Right, we have to publish
Today.
today,
Or
well,
the 28th, 2 weeks.
yeah, so we'd have to well, it could,
Or we could do a special board meeting on the 31st.
because it has to go in 2 newspaper postings.
So you can get in next Wednesday, the 21st and the 28th.
And then we'd have to do a special board meeting on
Like
the
on the
30th or
29th or the
29, 30 or regular. Or whatever those. first
31st
two-
is a Saturday.
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
know.
sorry.
I mean, I'll come in on
29th.
Saturday to do it, but
That's what we gotta do.
As we sit now, is there anything like that looks like potentially grant wise or other outside funding wise, that it looks like, hey, this looks like pretty good chance that we're gonna get some of this money for the current proposed curriculum and/or, I mean, it sounds like we did get some money for tech, but
Yeah, we get a little for tech. The options that I'm aware of are not open.
okay.
So
yet,
that's
so
the
I can't
problem. We
tell
can't,
you.
so this is where the full and the empty says it's not even open. What if their pot of money doesn't even materialize and they don't even ever open the grant? See, the full says, well, it's been every year we can do that. Well, this might be the first year that we can't. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm the full saying, for 10 years, they've opened that grant every fall, right? We're gonna apply, right? The pessimist says, well, we can't bet on the come. What if they don't open the grant?
And
What?
if
Go ahead.
we zero that out, so that, going back to Deanna and your committees, I mean, do we not even go forward and review curriculum?
If we're not gonna, if you're telling me we're not gonna have it, then I mean, it's like, when your kids go to Disneyland and you don't get on the plane, I need to be honest with them, just like anything else, and just say that that item's been removed from the budget, and so we're going to halt our, because if it was another year away, there could be new and appropriate, there's no point in moving forward now, other than the only other scenario is you move forward saying, we're definitely gonna give you this money in 25, 26, and you buy it first thing, but then you mean you start school without it. And you have to start school with a new curriculum at some point during the school year. Which is not ideal, but better than nothing.
That's approximately 18 months from now.
Yeah,
That was
that's
kind of
why
my question.
it's showing up like in
October,
October.
November of
of
25,
25.
26.
So really wouldn't be adopted for a full year until 26, 27.
If it were in the budget, your committee would continue working towards it, potentially not getting funding for it in the spring. If it's not in the budget, all work stops.
Right, and I could go, like, if we have a grant opportunity, but even the grant opportunity that I'm aware of, if we were to get the funding, and I don't know if we would or wouldn't, it wouldn't pay for all of it, it'd be like maybe
half,
100.
100.
Yeah. Which is great, but there's a lot, there would be quite a bit that still had to be funded. And I
So-
want to go back and look at that number you're using, I'm wondering if it's also part of like adoption stuff that we're buying now, from last year. Plus that's in instruction. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah.
I kind of would, again, personally, I really think that curriculum needs to be in there. I don't like hearing that the committee's work is just gonna stop if it's not in the budget. Like, I want to be ready to pull the trigger in the spring if that money does materialize in our revenue. But I also think like if we were to move forward with a budget, including the curriculum, we really need a good, strong financial plan in place for how we're gonna deal with that this year. Like, at what point in time are we going to analyze our revenues and make that decision early?
I would think Delise and I could have a pretty strong, faithful decision by November. Because
Grant
we
will
would
be
know our
done. Grant will be done.
grants will be done, year end will be done, and enrollment for 3 months would be there.
And then the enrollment that we get in November is what OSPI takes and gives us extra money for. So whatever we budget for now, the difference between those kids and what we have in November, we'll get all of that extra money in February.
So let me see if I can give you an example. And these aren't, everybody listening, these are not our real enrollment numbers, okay? But if we plan for 2,300, that's what we're budgeting on this F-195, right? And so they apportion for September off of 2,300, October off of 2,300, November after 2,300. Then they go, oh no, you had 2,400. We're gonna now right the ship. We're gonna pay you what we didn't pay you in September, October, November, right? Does that make sense? And then each month after that, we base on what your average is. Okay. I just want to make sure anybody who's listening and understands, we still our first 3 months. Is that right?
Mhm.
Get off of what our budget is.
Yep.
And then they correct.
Whether it's higher or lower.
Yes, and I have worked in districts where they pay back.
And our beginning fund balance will be known by October, which potentially could be higher.
Our enrollment is,
You won't say that.
if it's higher, so is it budgeted for that higher number?
No,
No, so we know
So-
that we're gonna get 5,600 students worth of money.
Yeah, so I
Already.
budgeted, less than what we have. So what I took October's enrollment and minus 1%, which is the accounting WASBO official guidance on how to do it, because you don't want to over budget and end up having to pay that.
So that's about 56,000.
It's 10,000 per kid. So yes. But
Plus, that does not include the 18
It
TK.
does not include I did not, and does not include the 18. We budgeted.
So really, you're at 74.
Yes, for what we got for this year.
So that's-
Because although we have them registered, I'm not going to feel comfortable until their butts are in the seats to be able to count.
That gets us almost to 800. That's a little better. We're gaining a little bit, a step.
That's why I guess I feel like November, if that really does materialize, I could feel comfortable with this budget. But if it doesn't, we have to say, sorry, Deanna. Sorry, Sean. Like, we don't have to spend the money. I just hope we can.
What's the process again for doing a budget amendment?
An extension. Same thing as a budget hearing, we have to advertise it. And then I have to go in and redo the budget process in EDS, the OSPI website.
Mhm.
So we redo it in there. It's the same process of going and getting reviewed and approved through ESD, and then we send it to OSPI and then they approve it.
Okay.
So I mean, it's not, nobody's gonna die. It's not gonna be the end of the world. It's just gonna be work.
How long does it take?
Great question. To be able to, I guess it just depends on what we decide to extend the budget amount to. It would take probably a couple weeks work. But I mean, obviously, if that's what you guys decide to do, I'm support it and I'll do whatever you tell me.
And you would know, or we would know, you would know. Around November when we close out our fiscal year for this year, and then,
So, my year-end report is due in November. So by the end of October, we'll have all of the accruals and grants accrued. So we'll have a better idea of what will be getting fund balances. And then November 1st, we have our count. So we'll have our real true enrollment numbers and how much over budget we are on that.
And then because of the work that's due for year end to OSPI, if you're thinking like, when could we take a look and make the decision to do a budget extension? It probably wouldn't be able to happen till December or January by the time the year end is done.
And then at that point, the curriculum committee would start back up again.
I'd like to just keep going with them. Start in September, but it's gonna be really hard to wait, then make a decision and arrange for pilot, do a pilot, get it done. I mean, it'll be hard to turn it around that fast. Cause it's just hard. It's not like you can make them meet every week after school. It's tough. So we usually try to do it on a 3 to 4 week cycle just because there's a lot going on, but so Kim said she's glass empty, glass half full. Technically, she's glass empty, she's glass quarter full. I'm glass half full. So,
And I think that comes from 20 years of being in or 30 years being in the
Like,
Prosser School
to make it
District.
happen, yeah. So
I can't speak to
I'll
that.
do whatever I'm asked to do.
But I mean, like, as we sit, like, looking at these numbers, obviously, the curriculum wouldn't or isn't going to happen. So, but I mean, just because if we decided to leave it as is, I mean, is the committee still gonna be gung ho to research your curriculum if people are looking at these numbers? To me, at this point, the curriculum's a no.
Yeah, it's all about,
I mean,
I don't
don't know.
tell you that.
I mean,
I couldn't tell you that.
so I mean, we're talking about, do they keep pursuing it or pick it up in December? I mean, I don't know. It just seems like, look at these numbers, why would you keep pursuing it? Versus if in December it looked like curriculum was gonna be a go, then get back on it.
I think we would have knowing whether we're leading to the full or the empty glass
By the end.
by September 1.
Yeah, like, I feel like, I know we have to have this August 31st date, but like, we're gonna know our counts the first week of school. And usually it'll go up a little after Labor Day. And then we'll see,
And
we'll
then-
know
Yeah, we're gonna,
pretty well by then, so.
it's called the 4-day count I'm gonna get really in the weeds and we have a lot to do, but this is super important. So it's called a 4-day count. So what it is, it's called whites of their eyes. So I'm gonna look at Cammy, and Cammy does not show up on the first day because and I sure hope I'm not saying grandma passes away. I don't, sorry, Cammy, but
Disneyland.
it goes to Disneyland. Sorry, she's still in Disneyland.
She's
Thank
still
you.
on summer vacation.
Yeah, still on summer, but she doesn't show up on the first day. Cammy is not counted on day 1. She doesn't show up on day 2, she's not counted. She doesn't show up on 3, she's not counted. Your first count is day 4. And if they've shown up any of those 4 days, they're counted. But if they don't show up all 4 days, then they're dropped. And that's why we don't ever talk about count in September till we've seen the whites of their eyes. Because maybe a family of 6 on August 15th moved to Kansas, and they haven't put their transfer paperwork in. They don't have their new house. They don't even know what school they're in. They're still registered for us, but we don't see the whites of their eyes, and they're 6 negative. And they're still going to school somewhere. Somebody's made a good family move. They've got a job somewhere, but we don't see. So we don't talk about count until we've seen the whites of their eyes. And that's why you do this projection, and that's why a resolution is based on expenditures and not based on revenue. The board is in, basically, you still have the control of the vouchers, right? And you still have the control of the contracts, but you're saying, Prosser School District, you can budget to spend this amount of money. We have the final say, like you did in curriculum or tech, but this is what we have the capacity to spend. You don't say this is the capacity for our revenue. We want it to be whatever it can be, as high as we can be. That's why resolution's built off of expenditure and not off of revenue.
I'm gonna reference the policy again, and I hope I have the most updated. I couldn't pull
We
it up
can't get
from the
into it right at
website.
the moment.
I'm just looking at an old agenda. You know, so if we authorize the use of unrestricted or undesignated fund balance below or 4%, the superintendent or designee will prepare a financial plan identifying how the reserve will be returned to the 4% level. And if it drops below 3%, a financial emergency will be declared, at which time the board will work with the superintendent or designee to implement immediate financial austerity measures and return the fund balance to a minimum of 4%. So I guess if we're gonna approve a budget like this, I think we need to have a detailed plan on what things are going to be cut and how we are going to get back to the 3 or whatever I just
Basically the
said, 3 or
4%.
4%. Otherwise, I just, if I don't have something that ties, this budget to what are our remedies as a district, I think you guys do a great job, and I do have faith that you will do it, but I think I need to see it on paper. Like what we're going to do to get it back, to that fund. My other question is cash flow. If our fund balance is that far down, how does our cash flow look before we start getting in all the, the appropriate revenues?
So, I mean, historically, May and June for districts are bad months. We have a lot of cash outs. A lot of timesheets, all the principals and the teachers, everything out in June. But also our revenue in May and June is minimal. It's like 4 or 5% for apportionment. So it's minimal. I'm not worried about our cash flow. We watch our cash flow very closely. I have a cash flow spreadsheet that has what we get in revenues each month and what our expenditures are expected to be. Where we might come into an issue, and I did speak about this with the ESD today, is May or June of next year. If we do have it the way that we are and don't have any additional revenue. And in that case, we would work with the county and let them know that our cash flow is low. But the cash flow wouldn't be an issue because this 731,000 ending fund balance is not carrying over from month to month. this is what it would be at August 31st, 2025.
But if we, it's the reason I'm asking that, if I look at the May financials, if I go back to September of this year, our revenues were 2.8 and our expenditures were 4.2.
So that was almost $1 million in insurance also, that we pay out in September, and we've, USIP has given us the option of splitting it into two payments, one in September and one in October. So we've planned for that, and we'll plan accordingly also for what other things that we're paying in September and October that don't necessarily need to be paid or ordered or purchased, to ensure that that cash flow stays the same. Now, if we had to pay the full $875,000 insurance bill in September, we would be running into an issue.
So our insurance went up a couple $100,000.
Yeah,
right?
it went to
Yeah,
870.
30%.
It went up to
Okay,
870.
so we're gonna knock $200,000 off of roughly that, if I just look at this year's
Mhm.
numbers, right? It's
Our
still good.
revenues also are up from last year too. The revenues are up. But I mean, it's,
So if I compared March's revenue or April, because that's still 9%,
mhm.
would that be the closest estimate of revenue for September?
Look at my graph.
No,
No, that's not right.
not no to you. No, internet's not working very well.
Mine's not loading.
Mm-mm. That's why what we were having a problem with. That's why I called Sean over. I can't get into.
I guess, but maybe that's how do you forecast it? 'Cause it seems like the spreadsheet's all over the place. So
Right, yeah, so it's
Even though it says
9 and 12
9%,
and 5
it's all-
and 4, 6 and.
So you have to also keep in mind that even though those are our percentages, they, with enrollment, the apportionment number changes
right,
at the beginning of the year in February or March. And so the percentages stay the same, but the total amount of apportionment that we're receiving went up. And so the numbers changed. So they're not going to be all the same like they would. if we
9%
had
one
the
month is
same-
not the same as 9% another month.
Correct, because our apportionment, the total apportionment amount increased because we under budgeted for enrollment, and that's what apportionment is based off of.
Remember the example of 2,300 versus 2,400, right?
Mhm.
And so it's 9% of what it is versus not 9% of what it was budgeted. If the number's 9%.
The whole tracking revenue is a lot more
Yeah.
difficult to, there's no method to it.
Mm-mm.
The way
Well, there
the way I
is,
see it, but
But, so that's example, so we budget 2,300, remember that example I gave? Well, if it was 9% and then 5%, you could do that, but that's only good for 3 months. And then they level it out 1 month, then you go back to the next month,
mhm.
and now we're on actual. So you go up 2 students, you go down 5 students, you add 10 students, you go down 3. So that same 9% could be a very different number
Right.
every month.
Correct. Which is why if you look from like February to March, it's different.
Mhm.
March to April, it's different. So our enrollments were
Changing.
changing. So again, it's it's what you budgeted for the first 3 months, with the end of the year, and then it's actual thereafter that.
The action that we'll have to take, regardless of the result either way, is gonna be the same whether we accept this or not, right? I mean, these are just projections
Mhm.
at this time. I mean, it goes against every grain in the body to prove something that's over budget. Is it gonna cost us more money to kick this thing down the road and try to,
Well, we can only legally kick it till the 31st of August. We
Mhm.
have to have a budget resolution by August 31st. That's the law.
I mean, if we were gonna say zero, we have changed this to where there's zero excess of revenues. That would be a process, right?
Yeah, so I mean, it's.
Basically, she would go in and zero out curriculum and tech.
Tech, yeah.
Yep, I would reprocess it in one system, re-upload it into EDS. and
We'd have to
go
publicize 2 news weeks. And then we would have to go from there. I think the piece Jason read, though, I just wanna read what you read. I think we would still have to write a plan for improving because we're under, excuse me, yes, we're under the 4%. So we still have to write the plan either way.
Mhm.
We're already under the 4%
Yeah.
today.
Well, today we're not, but we will be for the budget
Mhm. By the end.
by
of
the end
year.
of the year. And so you do this yearly.
Didn't we talk about opening the fund or what exactly?
1% of-
terminology, to, to look for ways to get money for these shortages? I mean, is that part of the process or is that just kind of blue sky? I mean,
Are you referring to a grant writer? Or are you
yeah,
talking?
well, I'm talking about, we had. talked
Putting
about
money
Saving
aside.
Putting money aside, or building on,
Some capacity.
That's
in,
what
I
of
mean,
the
it's
items
separate
would be in our
for
plan,
Curriculum and for,
right? That would
So
be part of our
there's
plan.
$650,000 in expenses set aside for budget capacity. So that's emergencies. We haven't had to touch that, but it's there if we absolutely need it. But it is set aside in expenses for that.
So that 47 million includes 650,000
It does.
kind of fenced off.
Yep, it's in an expense code and under central office.
So in an emergency,
Yeah,
this revenue doesn't materialize.
Mhm.
That's a potential source of money that could be used for something.
That's
Yes.
already part of our expenditure.
yes, yep,
Right.
So
and
yeah, you
if,
can shift it whatever
So
you want.
that, plus the enrollment projection is almost equal to,
correct.
yeah,
Mhm.
so that,
And then we would need to figure out how we're getting that $650,000 back in budget capacity, because what we don't want to do is go into the next school year with zero budget capacity and run into an emergency.
I keep thinking about what Michelle said earlier, we're here to teach kids and without curriculum, we don't have kids and enrollment is, key. And if we have an outdated science curriculum for 2 to 3 more years, being on Gary Locke and that Washington State history book, and I'm sorry, but I mean, it's just so, to me, it's just like, the kids were born when he was governor and he's in the book as the governor of the state of Washington. I think, and I just want to, I don't. It's not how you budget successfully for a business in your home, but it's like a chicken and an egg situation to me. Like, how do we grow enrollment if we say, okay, but here's your curriculum? People that are like very academically focused, we're gonna say, what's the science? And
Well, I mean, I can tell you personally, I wonder how many, our enrollment has been growing this last year. Is some of that due to the fact that we've been talking about, we're gonna put more focus on curriculum. We have a new language arts curriculum. We're talking about introducing a new science curriculum. Like, is that making people feel hopeful? I personally enrolled my 2 children in Prosser District yesterday to come back because I have confidence we're working on this. If we start pulling curriculum money, I'm gonna start thinking about taking my kids back out. I mean, you have, it changes it, yeah. You gotta offer good education if you want kids to enroll.
I mean, I totally agree, and I mean, this is all stuff we talked about in June, but totally agree with the curriculum, but kind of back to the road Jason's going down. I mean, the job of the board at the end of the day is to try and keep the district in good standing. So I don't know if by approving this current budget the way it is, are we honestly doing that? And I don't think we are.
So I have one more thing to throw out to you and we're kind of shooting a little bit from the hip, but we're talking about all things. If Delise and I put together a fiscal, that plan that's kind of described in the bottom, right? School board superintendent designee, and 1 or 2 of you sat down and we put the plan together and what it would look like, right? To get us to we can't do it in 1 year. I just want to make that very clear, right?
Mhm.
But if we put together a 2-year projected plan on how to do this, right? And we would have to have a, we can say growth enrollment projected of blank, right? And if that doesn't happen, then we must blank, right? It's gonna be like a mathematical problem. If we put a plan together like that, would that make you feel like you have the capacity and the power to approve it and leave it alone and then make the decision to not spend it? Do you see does that make sense what I'm saying? If I brought.
I would need that and I would want that, yeah. But I would feel comfortable then knowing that there's
So,
a plan.
For example, and I'm gonna be really transparent here as I try to always be. So it would say, if our enrollment is up 70, well, let's just say, if our enrollment is up 47, which takes care of that 470, right? Then we are at a capacity of 0 to be at a projected 3%. I bear with me, I'm not saying the exact numbers, right? If our enrollment does not do that, then we must cut
X, Y, and Z.
468,000 of this amount of expenditures, and those two easiest are our 1%, our curriculum and our technology, right, is an example. If we put that together, would you feel comfortable as a board to allow the expenditure capacity to be there? And if so, remember, we're business people, right? We're in the business of education. Would you feel comfortable doing it now, or would you want to wait until we presented the proposal to the public on the 28th?
Before you answer, I need to say one more thing.
Okay.
We have a $47,425,000 budget. And the only thing we can take away is curriculum technology, which is closest to kids. Is that really the place we're gonna cut first?
I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of it's gonna have to go back to
And then it goes
superintendent.
back to people. It's,
Just because that seems easy, because we know those numbers, there's a lot of other numbers in there, so like.
But that's also what we talked
This is my
about,
plate.
building this was that would be the first thing that wouldn't happen, would be the curriculum, and we talked about this. I mean, I don't know why that conversation changes now. I mean, those were the first two things.
Well, historically, that's what always gets cut,
Mhm.
but I think that's what's gotten
But that's the
district
reason where we are.
Right.
where we are.
So, I think, for me personally, the only way I can accept a budget like this is if we do what the policy says.
Okay.
We're gonna have to, I don't know if this is the right terminology, but it's in my version, declare a budget emergency, because this is really what it is if this is how this goes. Then it becomes our job to decide what cuts, and there's, it's the easies, computers or technology and curriculum, but I don't know if we want to do that, but we're gonna have to figure out something. But I also think part of this is, we're gonna have to really look at, a hiring freeze. Because if we hire people and those numbers don't change, that 47 becomes closer to 48 or, or 47.6 or whatever that number is. So I, like I said, I'd be comfortable as long as, if we could stick to the policy, come up with a plan to get us back to where we need to be. And then once we're back there, we can breathe a sigh of relief and everybody will go away happy, and I can approve the budget as it sits.
so one question that, I'm the one who just brought it up, right? But because there's nothing in concrete in a plan, because we don't know what enrollment will be, it's gonna have to be kind of like what Delise projected was scenario 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Because if the enrollment goes up, then this stuff doesn't. If the enrollment doesn't go up, this is what goes, right? Do you see what I'm getting at?
Mhm.
And some of those.
In the plan, you're saying
Yes.
be multiple scenarios.
There's going to have to be, because there's no way to say what the enrollment will be. And some of those things are maybe things that our community is not gonna be very happy with.
Yeah.
Say, we don't wanna give up curriculum, it might be C-team athletics.
I'd like for the plan
what
to
I'm
be dollar focused and not identifying what is getting cut. Because
Okay.
I do believe, I mean, I've got 20 years of experience combing through operations budgets and squeezing them.
Uh-huh.
And there's room elsewhere.
Mhm.
We don't have to take it from the kids.
I don't think we're passing a budget tonight.
Okay.
No.
I think, I mean,
That's
that,
what I'm
that would,
hearing.
so my suggestion would be, I'd make a motion, table passing the resolution, adopting the 24-25 budget and come back before August 31st to pass the budget. But I think, I know that I didn't have these numbers when I was studying it and looking at it, and I think, going from 3.1 million to 700,000, I need like more than 60 minutes to process that and to kind of look at everything and reframe it. And I think it's a bigger conversation and solution that we can get today. And we know we have to pass the budget by August 31st. We've got 2 weeks to make it happen.
I will second that motion. So it's been moved and seconded to table the resolution 0824 adopting the 24-25 budget to a future meeting date prior to August 31st. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, then we'll go back. The next up is the Western Governors University Clinical Experience Agreement, not experiment.
We are experimenting. This is just a renewal of our agreement with WGU so that we can host student teachers from their program in our district.
Is this a new?
No, we've
We've
had
had this before.
WGU for quite a few years, yeah.
Okay.
They're not, we're getting more new ones, but this is an old one.
Is it?
Yeah.
It, and I probably seen it before, but I don't remember it, but something that caught my eye was the reporting part.
Yeah, we make them get permission from parents to record, so we have them do a permission form if they're gonna be able to be recorded. Sometimes our university has a higher, like our kids already sign a thing that says it's okay or not okay, but some of their universities have a higher requirement and want them to use their form, we let them, it doesn't matter to us. As long as they're compliant.
And it's worked out, no issues the years that we've had it.
As long as I've been here, no. No. And sometimes what we've been able to do if sometimes it'll be like one student, and then you just put them where the cameras are gonna see them if they need to record, and not all universities require them to record.
WGU is mainly one of the ones that does because it's an online program.
Yeah,
And their
sometimes. they have
mentor
people in
teachers and
person.
their professors watch from online.
Yeah.
Or from the recording.
I move to approve the Western Governors University Clinical Experience Agreement.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Cammy, you got any thoughts on that one? Alexander, now I'm gonna start calling on you guys after we got through that part. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to conditional certificated teachers.
Okay, so the next 3 items are, next several items are mine, but these are conditional teachers that we've hired. These are all folks that are in a program to earn their certification. I want to highlight because it's not on the list. We have 0 emergency certificates we have hired this year. The job market has shifted considerably for us. At this point, we may, something could happen, or we could have a sub that's gonna be here long term. So I'm not gonna say we're not gonna have any emergencies, but right now we have not hired any for a permanent position. So these folks are all in programs or finishing up programs or testing. Some of them have been working for us already for a period of time, but
Can you explain the stars under?
so Casey Blair has been teaching for a really long time, and she had to get a conditional certificate for CTE because she's gonna do our careers in ed course, but she's not going back to school to do that.
Okay.
And then Nathan Conway, he already has his full CTE certification. We had to get him a conditional certificate because he has to take the CTE part that's like a year. So next year, I believe it'll be next year. So he already has like he has all the certifications to do that, but he doesn't have the CTE part that the state requires. So he has to there's certain classes they have to take to do that. So they're not in a college, it's CTE program.
Thank you.
Good question.
Any other questions?
Make a motion to approve the conditional certificated teachers.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Cammy, what do you think? Alexander, all right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up is the temporary out of endorsement waivers.
We've had a few of these, one person maybe or two over the years. So Geneva Kitchen was hired to be an elementary middle school ELA resource room teacher. She has a teaching endorsement. She's getting her special ed certification. So for this person, we do temporarily, they're out of their endorsement of regular, ELA until she gets her special ed endorsement.
And it's normally, this is often a paperwork type situation.
She's a teacher. She's got to she's finishing her sped
Sped.
endorsement.
I would make a motion to approve temporary out of endorsement waiver.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Cammy, what do you think? Alexander? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up is Center for High School Success Agreement 24-25.
So we have a ninth grade success grant here at the high school. It's our third year. And part of the requirements of the grant is we partner with the Center for High School Success. They provide coaching, data support, a data dashboard, things that we use. So we're to get all of our grant funds, we're required to participate. And they really have been great. We enjoy working with our coach. She supports David and Brian, and the dashboard's really great to really look at reasons kids might be struggling, how their kids are doing well, kids that might need some extra support. So.
And is this the first year we got a grant for this?
No, we've had it for 3 years.
Okay.
But we got it at the tail end like a year and a half ago. So it's kind of 3 years, but it's really like literally probably we're talking 16 or 17 months maximum, but it's really the third year in the grant.
Gotcha. I move to approve the Center for High School Success Agreement 24-25.
Second it.
Been moved and seconded. Cammy, what do you think? Alexander? No comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Post same sign. Motion carries. Next up is contract for the services of Education Service District 105.
So many educations in there.
Wow, that's a lot.
So our principal administrative team, so for people like me, evaluating teachers, I was trained like 14 years ago when it started, and other than some little refresher things here and there, never really, not like we've been consistently retrained. And so we felt that our principals needed calibration, retraining, make sure everybody's on the same page when it comes to evaluation, that we're holding the same standards. So the ESD 123 doesn't have anybody that does this training. So actually I was referred to Darcy at the ESD 105. So all of the planning and all of that, the execution for the training, and she's going to do some follow-up with us as far as I heard it come. She's supposed to come Friday. I would have put it out in a long time ago, but they just sent me the contract like 2 days before the board stuff was due. I've been asking since June, just a little slow on the contract piece, but
And this Deanna's training
all of the administrators that evaluate teachers.
on how to evaluate the teachers.
Yes.
And it's actually all about calibration also. So that if the 5 of us walked into a room and we're looking for a particular thing, when we walk out, we score the same.
Yeah.
Um,
And
right?
even though everybody's been trained and there's kind of a specific format they use, everybody was trained. We might have 2 or 3 principals that went to the same training 6 years ago, and somebody else that went 9 years ago, and I went 12 or 14 years ago. But it's just best practice, refresh that training, make sure we're on the same page, that we're doing the same work, because we want to see consistency in our evaluation, not necessarily in what, like teachers are different, but we shouldn't see one evaluation where they're not getting as much feedback, they're not getting next steps, and then another one we see like this much is too much. So some calibration in what we're seeing, what we're expecting from teachers. So it'll be good. The principals asked for it. The teachers union has actually asked for us to do that as well, because sometimes they're seeing some inconsistency. everyone's following the rules, but following the rules is not the same as being consistent.
Well, I'll move to approve the contract for the services of Education Service District 105. We'll stop there.
It's been moved and seconded. Cammy, what do you think? All right. Alexander, you good too?
Yep.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. Next up is suicide prevention training.
Okay, so we've talked quite a bit about suicide prevention training. I'd really look for something that was for like the whole staff. Best practice for people doing this kind of training is not doing a huge group. So I've been talked with Kimberly Starr quite a bit over the last couple of years. We've had some specific requests from students and staff. Actually got a very heartfelt email from a staff member about how happy they are that we're offering this training for staff. So it will be 35. We're going to start with 35 people, and it'll be in 2 different parts, and teachers will be able to come and earn clock hours and learn to recognize the signs, learn how to, if there has been some sort of challenge, how to talk to people, or if there's, how to talk to students appropriately, or even family members that would impact anybody that's doing that. So it's kind of our first try with this, but she's local. She's a real heart for Prosser and Prosser kids. So I'm excited to try it. We do have a grant called Title IV, and has 3 areas that we can support. And one of those is safe and healthy students. So we're going to use some grant funding to pay her fee.
What's the plan for the rest of the teachers? And I know
So
at one
what we're
point
gonna
too,
do-
we talked about, I mean, I don't know if the school district is the right person to educate students, but like, how do we also help them look for signs in their?
So that's something we can talk about. She and I talked about primarily adults. She has done work with students, and that depending on the situation, I'm sure the conversation maybe changes a little bit depending on the age of the students. But this is her first time kind of training in our district. So we're gonna do this first round, and if there's interest, which I think there will be, then I'll probably come back and ask for some more rounds of the training for people. It'll be after school, so it'll be optional. But as of right now, I haven't found anything for everybody that we can make mandatory. They don't want to come in and train 170 or 80 or 250 people at a time. And it's not best practice. But we have our mental health awareness week, and our social worker that's working here. I'm connecting our social worker who plans a lot of the mental health awareness, guest speakers, and those things. We're connecting once school gets started. Kimberly and Maria and I will be connecting to look about what we can do. She really wants to do things to help support our students. So
And she's done this in other districts.
she has, and she's done like, like a community, thing where you could go and, anybody could go and sign up to go or go to see her presentation. So yeah, she's
excellent. I've heard her.
yeah.
I've through them in Rotary, and it's just things you don't think about. And
Right.
it's just how to talk, like how to
Yes.
approach somebody. You just really don't know, like, oh.
The things you do and
yeah.
don't say.
All right, well, have
Yeah.
stickers, feel better, much more than that.
Yeah.
Most of the reveal.
Yeah.
Well, I would make a motion to approve the contract with suicide prevention.
That was Snickers. I'll second that. I'll give you a Snickers too.
The example was
Yeah.
that it's not.
That's not what you do. Yes.
Very clearly.
Sorry.
Someone wants to talk to me about it. Not. what you should.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve the suicide prevention training. Cammy, Alexander, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carries.
You can fill in, I'll explain it. We might have to get to.
So we'll move on to item 8 would be the end of summer surplus sale.
So we've moved into the old Prosser High School, right? We've been cleaning and working all summer. And so we have I guess the word would be leftovers, the things that we did not bring with us, like you do when you move from a home or something, right? And those items are in the Grant Avenue address. And so we have that particular list, and I want everybody who's listening here, it's gonna be like what we did at the old high school, old Prosser High School, when we got ready. It's, we're gonna open the doors and let everybody come in. We're setting a date for in September. It'll be a Saturday, right? We can, and do that. So that's what that list is. And there's such an array. It's not like I can say there are 19 chairs, there are 2 desks, right?
Mhm.
Because things are old and might have, you've seen the TV shows where like we're turning it into something else, so there's nothing of any large significance. Selena's checking, we had a sidebar conversation here about whether it needed to be a resolution.
I believe that's just for technology and transportation.
Don't
need a resolution.
Okay, so we'd like a,
Make a motion to approve the end of summer surplus sale.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Cammy, what do you think? You good? Alexander?
come to the yard sale?
Yeah, you come get some stuff.
What's there?
Well, college in
Yeah.
another year, so you
Right.
can have some good stuff.
Does surplus go into our revenue?
That's what.
It does.
It doesn't
All
make
the
much
stuff when we
sense,
cleared out the
but-
CT building, I think it's 700.
Don't expect a lot.
Yeah.
Well, what if you announced it, and said, this is going to a great cause,
It's a make an offer type deal, so it's.
Yeah, you might get more bids up, you know,
There you go.
for the kids. For the kids.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those same sign, motion carries. Next up is surplus of the curriculum and technology mobile office.
So I want to make sure everybody who's listening and so forth is very clear and understanding. When we have what I would call a mobile home or a modular, this is a modular technology office. It actually has 3 titles, 1 for each third. Okay, does that make sense? So it's a triple wide. So there is a title for each third. The technology office is approximately, how many years old, Miss History?
Probably at least 25-ish.
And that is when you were talking about property, right? We'd like to eventually sell our Grant Avenue property. And the modular home does not have value or does not add value to this particular piece of property. So we'd like to surplus it. And that's what I have to share on that.
would there be any value in asking like the appraiser if there is? Or they just say there's no value in it because it
Mhm.
costs too much to.
When
move or-
when the Prosser School District had the properties appraised in 2021, I believe it was, there is no value to that piece, and that's on that appraisal document. And approximately 40,000 to move it. And I have no idea how much cost it would be to dispose of it at a landfill. And that movable fee I received, and I have that in email.
Is this being brought to the public then for?
Yep.
Okay.
This
Or
will,
do you-
yeah, so this will then get put out for sale.
Okay.
Mhm.
I move to approve the surplus of the curriculum and technology mobile office.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Cammy, think you're good? Alexander? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Post same sign, motion carries. What happens to the other one? Or is that the same building?
That is a physical building on
Oh,
a
that's right.
foundation.
That's right.
So it's,
Never
you
mind.
know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a part of the property.
Got it. All right, moving on is the amendment to the employment contract between Prosser School District 116 and Kim Casey. So basically, the just this, I guess the short of this is it extends after completion of evaluation, and we can approve to extend an additional contract year similar to what's the term for it, Lisa?
Evergreen.
Evergreen clause, thank you. However, being, I think in good faith with Kim, and the board. The sticking point between evergreen clause and some of the contracts is you have to pay out the balance of the contract, which can be very expensive and this is only to, if that were to happen, to the end of the current school year, contract year. So, any questions?
I move to approve the amendment to employment contract between Prosser School District and Kim Casey.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the amendment to the employment contract between Prosser School District and Kim Casey. Tammy? Good. Put you on the spot there, didn't
I'm
we?
like,
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion carries. Moving on to the consultant service agreement with Larry Gregory, TLC Enterprises.
so this is really simple. It's been something you've done for quite a few years. When there is a behavioral suspension or potential expulsion, you have the opportunity to have a hearing by a mediator, basically between the school district and the family. And he is who we bring under contract in case it's needed. I think last year he did one for us last year. Happy to say we don't have to use those services very often, but they are available if we need it. So we have to have it basically kind of like retained.
I move to approve the consultant service agreement with Larry Gregory, TLC Enterprises. It's been moved and seconded. Cammy, Alexander? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion carries. Moving on to consultant service agreement with, is it Jaime Arredondo?
Uh-huh.
Capacis Leadership?
So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about it. You might have seen the social media posts we put out. I met Jaime at the Farm to School conference that I kind of bragged about and told you about when we had one board meeting. An amazing individual who I think is going to share a good 30 to 45-minute message on our opener on the 19th, if this is approved. His bio, he sent tonight because I'm gonna put it out on social media. Some people asked it, and I'm just gonna, since we're here, and I mean, we don't have a lot of time, but this is what he says about himself. Jaime is a proud migrant from Las Ranas, Michoacan, Mexico. He has over 34 years of experience working in Oregon's farm worker movement, doing just about everything. Some of his favorite roles have included tour guide, smiles provider, peacemaker, convener, agitator with a smile, storyteller, smoothies maker, wannabe graphic designer, and a handy person with Mickey Mouse skills. Jaime enjoys running, spending time with family, volunteering, and watching sports. He is happily married for 45 years to his beautiful wife, Arceli, and a good parent, proud parent of 4 daughters. I think the piece that I want our community and so forth when we put this out and on his message, and his theme or message will be our well of wisdom. Capaces means to hold able. And I think, I was telling Deanna this, in our career, when you go to openings for every conference you've ever been to, after a few years, you're just kind of lean back like, here we go. By the time he was done talking, I was leaning forward, sitting on the table, and had this emotional movement from this individual. And before we were done, I was like, hey, how would you like to come and talk in Prosser? There's something about hearing the ability to hold a person able. Instead of giving them something, it's giving them the tools to hold them able to make a difference. And I think it's just an amazing message. So that's what I'm asking for.
I move to approve the consultant service agreement with Jaime Arredondo.
A second.
Who got? Michelle.
Michelle.
Tie.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded to approve the consult service agreement with Jaime Arredondo. Tammy, Alexander, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion carries.
Kim, is he speaking twice that day?
Yes, he'll speak to the staff in the morning and the community at 5:30.
On the 19th, right?
on the 19th.
Where am I at? 13. Positive, next up is positive behavior intervention and support training, PBIS. I think that's you.
But he's like, number 13.
About time.
So we would like to bring in, ESD 123 has trainers for PBIS, positive behaviors, interventions, and supports. And we, on our OSSI, which is our school improvement plan, PBIS is one of our goals. And so this ties in. I would be paying her through my OSSI funds. That's how she's being paid. So it's an all staff on Friday, it'd be next Friday. And we have not been trained, Heights has not been trained since 2017. Last time they've been trained. So by that point, all of our, and it was a small group at that point, or then, and they have all retired. They haven't even left, they just have retired. So we don't have anyone that has fully been trained. So I'd like to have all of us get trained. We're all on the same page and starting fresh, and it will tighten some stuff up. And then she'll come in 3 other times throughout the school year and meet with a small group, that PBIS committee, and really, again, put some places and some systems in place. You guys have any questions about what PBIS is?
Get a very good cover sheet.
So you have funds in your budget already for this? Do you,
It's grant money.
oh, okay. Does Whitstrand do anything like this? We have consistency between our elementary schools?
Whitstrand has a pretty strong PBIS system already in place, actually probably the strongest one. So they're.
If we
already
partner
very
with
good.
them, they do packs and we have packs also.
Yeah.
Move to approve the positive behavior intervention and support training.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Oh, man, you guys are already. I haven't even looked up yet and it's already rolling.
Well, it's been a long meeting.
I know.
So you keep it
All
rolling.
those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Jody.
Yep.
Okay, moving on to the consultant service agreement with River Ridge Vision Service. McKenna Griffith. Am I on the
Oh,
wrong?
I believe, okay, I think I do know a little bit about this one.
I'm like, I've got to look at like deer in the
So
headlight.
in the past, the ESD has provided vision services for we have a few visually impaired students that have to have, specialized instruction. And the ESD it was 105, and we actually paid quite a bit of money to do that. This is still expensive, but it's actually less than we were paying the ESD. So it's less than half. So this
This
River
is
Ridge
less than
Business
half
Services.
than what we
Mhm.
used to pay the
Pay the
ESD.
ESD. Yeah. ESD 105, because ESD 123 did not have the services. So they will provide the same services to meet the students' IEP goals, but we have to, it's an independent contractor versus ESD.
Any questions?
This is a sped budget item.
I move to-
That's part of our big.
I move to approve the consultant service agreement with River Ridge Vision Services. Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion carries. That is, oh, no, we still got next up is vouchers and payroll. I had some questions.
She's like, I know.
Yeah,
I'm ready to click.
so on the first set, the capital projects warrant. It's checked. I think it's all. Costless carpet and Vargas Pro floors. How is that part of the chiller replacement project?
So Lori put it
Okay,
in
too.
that budget code because we did not have a project budget code builds yet for that particular project.
Okay.
And so she put it in there and then we'll move it to a different one
Journal
once we have journal entry it to a different project, which is the 0045. So that'll change to a different project number. But when she ran these, it wasn't in the system yet. And so I told her to go ahead and run it and we'll do a journal entry over to the correct code.
So it's not chiller project, it's,
It is not the
Okay.
different project, no, but it is for the middle school. It's carpet for middle school.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I bet I have another one somewhere. Oh, the CK Home Comfort Systems, it's the HVAC system for old PHS,
That's the mini splits
was $130,000.
for 5 mini splits. Or was it 7? Oh, Andy's not here. Can you see it? Is it 5 or 7? I think it's actually
It
7.
just says
Yeah.
HVAC system
Yeah.
for old PHS.
So when you were in and you saw the controls and the different pieces,
Mhm.
the full one big unit was the price estimate we got was over 400,000 to put the chiller unit. So we did the individual mini splits in those so that we could control and not have to cool a classroom that was down the hall or whatever that's not occupied.
Well, they're more efficient. They probably use less power in the long run.
Yeah.
So there's 2 things that are related to that. You'll see a phase 2 electric and the CK. Because we had to do some electrical work. And it might not, it's not become, but if you see it next, I mean, when we
Okay.
get the statement, phase 2 electric did the electrical work and CK did the actual air conditioning units.
So my question, and it doesn't relate to old PHS, it's more, Housel. You know, we've
Chiller
been,
got put in.
we did get the chiller put
Chiller's
in,
in, it's cool.
so the classrooms will be cool for the start of school? Nice.
Yeah, got put in on Wednesday. I think
I was in there today. it looked
crane,
good.
yeah, the crane went, I
And
think
the
it was
carpet office
Wednesday.
looked good too.
The crane went in Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday last week, but it's cool.
All right. That's all I got. Does anybody else have any other questions?
I emailed the least my questions ahead of time. So I would say, a conversation with the splitters and the carpet at the middle school and the chiller. I mean, I think that really just shows when we didn't have a maintenance plan and a schedule for it for 20 years. So now we've had to absorb all those costs. So I think we're getting caught up, making a plan going forward. It's unfortunate that we've had to eat it all, but it had to be done to have kids in there and that old high school. So I had asked Elise about the American Reading Company, $42,000, and that was, she said, the last payment for that reading curriculum. Yeah, that PO is complete. The other question was City of Prosser for $26,426, and that's just our utility bill for this month. So do we need to like make sure all the hoses are off and there's not like a toilet running somewhere? That's just kind of our average, isn't it, per month for utilities in the city?
Was that, what was the,
Oh, sorry, so the number is 909,735. 733. Sorry, you're right, 73.
oh, there it is. So that's just water and sewer and
Garbage.
garbage, right?
For the month.
Yeah.
And irrigation for all the sites.
No
For the
one
month
here.
of, from June 25th to July
We
25th.
pay the city, the, irrigation.
There's irrigation on these bills too.
You get an assessment though.
Oh, you know what we're paying? We're paying irrigation where we don't have irrigation.
That's right.
Yeah.
Love that.
For those who are listening, you pay a portion of irrigation even if you don't have access to the water in Prosser.
If the property's in the irrigation
Irrigation.
district.
And I just know that because I saw that in my new house closing.
Those were all my questions and Elise had sent me an email earlier, so thank you.
Any other questions?
I didn't ask in advance, but I'm curious to know what automation and robotics supplies were purchased at HMS.
That's a great question.
We'd have
for
to
Rick.
ask Rick.
Oh, Josh,
Yep.
he can email you.
Mhm.
I could have Rick email you. Rick Follett.
I know
It says
they're-
HMS, but do you-
Right, I know
Howell
they're
Middle
doing
School, their
some
STEM and
new- Yeah,
robotics.
some adjustments to their
Curriculum.
program over there, so.
What
yeah.
vendor was it?
oh gosh, I don't see a vendor. It was almost $26,000 though.
Hmm.
I was like, wow, that's a lot of robots.
It's for Cooper's new program. He's been doing his CT training, yeah.
Is Project Lead the Way training?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
so that's
750.
all grant money. Project Lead the Way is grants.
I think that was a different line. Oh, maybe it's
Still
underneath.
CTE, It's still.
It's still
CTE.
CTE.
Yeah.
Project Lead the Way is a grant that Rick applied for particular things.
Yeah, I'm mostly just curious what they got.
Yeah.
You'll have to come see.
Elise, you can ask Rick
What,
to contact Michelle.
what vendor is it?
I don't see a vendor here.
Oh, it's Project Lead the Way, 754.
Yeah. Then it is that.
Oh, okay. Mhm.
Oh, directly to.
Sorry, I read the participation fees, but then underneath that was, yeah, so I read that as two separate, but yes, Project Lead the Way was the vendor.
He was on.
Oh,
I'll have him, pull that and get that to you.
Thanks.
I move to approve vouchers and payroll.
Second.
Did you have another question, Frank?
No, I didn't. I was getting ready to make a motion.
Oh, okay. All right. Stole your thunder.
We're good.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion carries. Next up is Art Fiker Access Cliffthorne Construction LLC contract.
so it's really exciting. If you remember, we thought we were gonna be in the 350 range, right? And we have the $100,000 grant for ADA accessible. When we got the bid, that's all in front of you. It was like 160 some for the ramp. And with that decision, with it being under what we predicted, we were able to do the stairs. And so it ended up, I believe, 240. I don't have it to put in front of me and I can't even get that now.
253.
253, thank you. And so we have 100,000 coming back of that. So our expense will be 153 or 253 plus tax minus 100,000. Super exciting, but it's even better than that is we're hoping it'll be done by the first home football game. So, tonight, there's a contract that we'll sign. We'll get that to the morning. They'll start their permit process and you'll probably see equipment in the next few days.
Yeah, it says should be completed by October 4th.
So the ramp and stuff should be usable, but like plants and the
Oh.
rock and stuff, so. The guaranteed completion date is October 4th, but we're hoping that by September 20, which is our first Friday night home
Okay.
football game, that the ramp and stairs
Will be usable.
will be usable.
Awesome.
That 100,000 in OPSI ADA compliance.
Yes,
Right.
that is what it was. And so we got it, we do this, we submit it, we submit the final payment and they reimburse us.
That's great.
I'd make a motion to approve Art Fiker Access Cliffthorne Construction LLC.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion carries. That concludes our action items for tonight. Moving on to consent items 1 through 3.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda, items 1 through 3.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Cammy Alexander. Good, no? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose same sign, motion carries. That concludes that, action items for tonight. Moving on to reports, Delise, you're up again.
So I won't take up too much more time. So May's reports are attached. We've already kind of talked about this. May is not the best month. Our revenues are super low because of apportionment. And we did lose one enrollment, but that's to be expected, especially with the last month of school or so. Our expenditures are still less than the year before in May, so that's kind of nice. And then next board meetings are the 28th, I will be presenting June and July. So you can really see the drastic difference where how it goes so low and then jumps right back up in July. I mean, the apportionment alone goes from 6 to 12.5% from June to July. So I'll have both of those reports to you on the 28th board meeting.
I have one question.
Mhm.
On the debt service. Where am I at? Debt service fund?
Yes.
How did I see this question? It looks like we're about $1 million ahead of where we. I'm probably not reading this right, but
No,
do we have a pending
So-
payment?
It came out in June.
Okay.
Yes, you
thank
have the bond payment came out in June. So when I present June, you'll see it dwindle back down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's all I got. Anybody have any questions? Tammy, Alexander, no? Thank you, Delise.
Welcome.
Deanna,
Yeah, so we talk fast. Okay, we welcome all new staff today. Kim and I'm sure Kim's gonna talk about that.
Actually, not, go for it.
Okay, there we go. Kim asked how many people were Prosser grads, and there were quite a few people that raised their hand, but I also want you to know, there are 3 people we hired that used to work for us, left the district and came back. So I thought that was cool. 1 counselor, 1 teacher, and 1 instructional coach, so she was a teacher too. Tomorrow we have our new certified staff induction here, and we do send them out to learn the district on a little scavenger hunt while they also do learning. So watch out if you see a car of educators coming, because it is a contest. And we have certified staff training going on next week. Aside from what we have for the kickoff day, we have training going on Tuesday and in the buildings, and then they'll be on Wednesday and Thursday. We're also doing the revised student growth training, so that changed for teachers this past year and goes into effect this year. So we'll be training teachers also next Wednesday afternoon. And then I just want to comment on the retreat. There was a lot of work that got done. There's a lot of things we got set for the start of school and to go into the year. And it also was really great team building for us. And that's all for me.
great, thank you. Any questions for Deanna?
So I'm gonna go, my report's
Thank you,
coming.
Deanna.
I'll
I'm
get
getting it.
started.
I can't get it out.
I'm gonna start at the bottom. It's coming to, the work that we hired Casey Widener, her name's not on here, as our fiscal. Most of you met when you, your one-on-one with me. I don't know if Michelle met her or not, because we were the Friday before she started on Monday. What a blessing. Her attention to detail and so forth. And so I want to really thank, Delise for that hard work, and the stress of the budget and trying to do things right. There's something that really needs to be said and the board needs to understand. When you're learning something, to say, I need help is one of the really hardest things to do when you're a professional. And Delise needs to be commended for that. Calling Travis, calling WASBA or the ESD and her team, reaching out to other business managers, making sure that we're doing it right. We would like to, whether we like the financial recovery plan, right, or not, we want to not have to stutter. We want to not have to we always want you to question, but we don't want to be able to ever, from this moving forward, say, we don't know why. Does that make sense? We want to be able to say, well, we made the decision at this board meeting, or we did this hiring decision, or we didn't hire this person, whatever it might be. We want to be able to answer that. And we are both very confident that that is where we're heading. Okay. Starting at the top, I don't know if you know about the climate advisory team from the city of Prosser. I am sitting on that. I will honestly and publicly say this, my conservative side had it was a real learning experience for me at that particular meeting, but I have to tell you, I learned a lot. And so it was really good for that, and I'm excited to continue to partner with the city of Prosser on that. Red and White Night is Friday night. That's our Booster Club event. Hopefully, if you're coming, you've already bought your tickets, because I don't know if they're sold out. I don't know if Renee's listening, but it's going to be a good event. I'm super excited for that. Boys and Girls Club, I don't know if you drove by in the last day or so. The plants are there. The asphalt went down in the driveway today. I talked to Brian Ace on the phone this morning. Super, super exciting things that are going to be moving forward with that. Super exciting.
It looks great.
Labor Day plan or Labor Day parade. I sent you an email. Please make sure you let me know whether you're coming or not. We need to, our entry is in. We just got to make sure we know if we have the right shirts, because we got new shirts for this year. The district opener, it is kind of the superintendent's rah-rah parade or whatever, rah-rah day to help things kicked off. We talked about this at our admin retreat. When I did it last year, it was a vision and a dream as an interim. I'm really, really excited to be able to stand there and share as their superintendent and really kick this off. And with Jaime, with your blessing for Jaime to join us, I'm really excited for that. Capital Levy meeting, you got a meeting invite for August 21st. The meeting has gone out. If there's anybody you know in the community, if you could just get me their email, I'm happy to invite them. I just want the Capital Levy committee, the community, and everybody to understand what amazing things are happening and how we're on schedule and how the bond worked and LGO bond and stuff like that. Legal, the lot consolidation. I'm going to hold my hands up for those of you who are watching. Our tennis court sits like this, and there were 2 lots that we owned like this underneath the tennis court. And before our project could be signed off, we had to consolidate those lots into one tax parcel. We filed that today with the county and it's all done. Facilities, the district office, we're getting closer. We did the tree trimming a couple days ago. That's getting cleaned up. We have 1 more sign to go up. It's cool in there. Mentioned that in the budget, or talking about the vouchers, and things are really moving on. The boardroom is getting close. We're gonna and know that you'll announce this. It will not be at our August 28th meeting, but it should be our September meeting. The admin retreat. There's something to be said about relationships. We talk about it student to teacher. We talk about it in everything we do. This relationship, the relationship with the student board reps and everything. And it was really good. Not only did we really do some strategic planning, our strategic plan work and taking a look at updating what was going on, but our work with Gina Yance and our AWSP framework, it was really good. Plus lots and lots of giggles and lots of fun. And it's just really meaningful, especially when the work gets hard. You have to have some of those stories and those laughs to rely back on when you're getting in hard work. Lots of professional development through the next 10 days. First day of school, August 27th. We're going to be doing a little reminder out there about slowing down, speed zones, those kinds of things. And that's what I have for today. And for those of you listening, I'm now a Prosser resident.
Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, next up is board reports. Michelle?
Well, the WASDA General Assembly Handbook is supposed to be final online Friday. So if any of you board members want to look it over, I'll send a link out. The General Assembly is late September, so I think we have, a month to look through it. Let me know if you have any feedback. Jason can educate me on what it is that I do during the General Assembly. I hear it is
I hope it was better.
long. But that should be out on Friday online. As I mentioned earlier, as of last night, I've re-enrolled my 2 kids in Prosser School District. So there's a little bit more money for our revenue. They're very excited. I'm excited to have a couple moles in the middle school for me. So they're going to be letting me know if they're getting their academic needs met, making sure it's pretty rigorous. I'm going to be all over everyone on communication. That's my big beef right now. So anyway, hopefully it'll be good, because I've got 2 kids there who's going to give me some insight into what it's like. And we also attended the Thrive Youth Cafe grand opening. It was a really cool space. And my children are really excited to be able to go there after school. And Kim tells me there'll be a bus stop for kids to go from the middle school, so they don't have to walk. So that's great to hear. That's all I've got.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Right?
Not much, obviously, I'm looking forward to kicking off the school year, fall sports getting ready to get going, so it's always a good time of the year when we can get kids out there and back on the grind.
No, district office looks great. Seeing all the new carpet and all the new projects going on, it's great. Also, I just want to say, I really appreciate the transparency on the budget and, you know, the work that you and Kim, I mean, everybody's done. And, you know, I know it's not fun doing it that way, the angle that you guys took. I really appreciate that because it's always better to look, you know, to have an honest picture of what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Lisa?
I was just gonna say, I hope everybody has a great first day. We don't meet back until that first day happens. Have a great year for everybody. Echo what Kim said, support the booster club, support your sports and scholarships for our athletes at Red and White Night. And the district office is great. The new paint outside looks so much better. So thank you.
I don't have much. I just had a couple things that came to mind. And I probably should have said it during the Art Fiker talk, but I think if I'm not mistaken, the handicap parking is along Patterson, right? Is that how that works?
The handicap lot
It's
is
up top.
above.
Oh, it's at the
And
very
we're,
top?
part of this project is to do. Well, I can't remember, it's in that spec that I
Okay.
sent you today. There's 3 or 4 or even maybe 5 on that sidewalk
Okay.
now.
Just something I didn't
Yep.
think about.
And it's in the spec and I cannot honestly say the number.
Okay,
And they'll be right by the access to the ramp.
perfect. A couple other items, I'd like to put on the schedule maybe for coming up is review a strategic plan, and maybe September, October-ish
Let's get
probably.
School started.
Yeah.
And then but we
as a
can
study
give you an
session.
update now, but we can do a more formal one.
Yeah,
Sure.
and then I know we were kind of in the process of a facilities plan.
I'll just read what Ed said. He says, tell Jason it's on its way. It's literally what it says. He got some numbers from Corey Plager, about our levy dollars and some different things. He will come and present it. That's his pushback for, being a little slow and getting it back to us.
Perfect. Thank you. That's all I got, and I will help Michelle whatever possible with the WASDA thing, because it is a daunting task. So with that, next regular board meeting is, do we skip next week?
We don't have a study session.
Be darned, is August 28th? I just planned it for next week.
We
Right
have
here in
the
the Prosser Library Workroom. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
For